All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors Advocacy 101 for 2023 webinar. We are very grateful to have you here joining among us to learn a little more about advocacy work and what it means in order to serve your clients and how you can best get involved. My name is Monique Edwards, and I am the 2023 chair for the Government Policies and Issues Committee and the chair for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee.
And my name is Tim McBrayer, and I am the 2023 RRAR President-elect and the chair of our Realtors Political Action Committee. Thank you for joining us today. This presentation on Zoom is being recorded and will be available to all RRAR members in the coming weeks. We have quite a few members on with us today, so please remember to stay muted throughout the presentation. You can utilize the Q&A feature to ask any questions that come to you during this program. Monique and I are committed to advocating for our industry through the work of GPIC and RPAC, but we know that we will go further with the involvement and buy-in of as many of our members as possible.
Yes, and buy-in begins with understanding. So before we jump into the program today, we want to share with you a brief video from the Realtor Party, which is an umbrella term coined by the National Association of Realtors to describe realtor advocacy work.
Can we talk? Can we just get real and talk? Imagine a world where you couldn't post a for sale sign in a client's yard, or suppose your independent contractor status was jeopardized and you were required to punch a clock at your broker's office. Or what if Congress abolished the mortgage interest deduction? How would it affect your business? Look, they say avoid talking politics at parties, but these scenarios just might happen without the Realtor Party. The Realtor Party. It's not the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or even a gala. It's the advocacy arm of the Realtor organization that fights for you and your business. As a Realtor, you are on the front line, helping Americans realize the dream of home ownership. You feel the pressure of onerous taxes, government overreach, and regulations that get it wrong. But you are not alone. Through the Realtor Party, we support candidates at home, in the state capitol, and in Washington, D.C., who understand your business needs. They champion our issues so more people can become homeowners. From protecting the mortgage interest deduction, to defeating unreasonable rental restrictions, to supporting balanced growth initiatives. The Realtor Party is there, and the Realtor Party is effective. But we can't do it alone. We need your help to vote, act, and invest in RPAC. Vote, act, invest. Supporting the Realtor Party is something we should all talk about. And frankly, something we should all do.
As you can see, the Realtor Party is a strong coalition that is in place to protect our industry, private property rights, and our businesses. The Realtor Party is supported through members' efforts under 3 pillars of involvement: vote, act, and invest.
We will discuss each of these in some capacity today throughout our meeting. But before we begin, we want to define what we mean by vote, act, and invest. So with vote, as a member of the Realtor Party, we encourage you to vote for candidates and issues that build strong communities, protect property and interests, and promote vibrant business investments in the local, state, and the national levels. When we act as a member of the Realtor Party, and you can act when you're called upon to support the Realtor Party at the local, state, and national levels. And this can look like, let me think here, participating in community outreach projects and activities, It's also responding to calls of action and serving as a political coordinator. And when you invest, since 1969, the Realtors Political Action Committee has promoted the election of, pro-realtor candidates across the United States. And when we invest in RPAC, you are helping elect candidates that understand and support our interest.
Exactly, Monique. Now I would like to introduce our first speaker, who is going to share with us a bit more about how important it is for our members to be engaged in Realtor Party advocacy work. Katherine Wendt currently serves as the Grassroots Operations Director for North Carolina Realtors. She previously worked for Intercontinental Hotels Group, representing the public affairs interests of 9 hotel brands across the globe. She is a graduate of Sweetbriar College and received her master's of public policy from the University of Massachusetts. She is an Atlanta native and willing to talk endlessly about her rescue pit bull. Katherine, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Tim, Jordan, Monique, Alex. It's great to be here with you again this year. Jordan is kind enough to run my PowerPoint for me today, so I apologize in advance if we are not fully on sync. But yes, I'm here to talk about the State Political Coordinator Program. As many of you know, NCR started this as an initiative in AR. They have the Federal Political Coordinator Program and have encouraged states to start these kind of key contact programs. So if you hear other members or even me say key contact, just know that I am referring to our State Political Coordinator Program. Jordan, can you do next slide, please? Okay, so what is an SPC? I know many of you on this call are already SPCs, so if you have any questions along the way, feel free to just put them in the chat and I will get them answered. But basically an SPC conveys the realtor viewpoint. Leslie had a really good point before this call even started, that we're not asking you to go out and be lobbyists. We're not asking you to know all the facts. We're just asking you to open a door. We're asking you to have those conversations. Tell your legislator about your client that is having an issue. You know your community so well, almost better than anyone. And we're just asking you to start that conversation. You know, just treat your legislator like you would one of your clients. You guys make relationships every single day. So we're just asking you to switch a little and use that on your selected elected official. But SPCs are selected. So in November, they had to submit an application. They went to our credentials committee. They were reviewed and selected. So just know that this is not just me talking about SPCs and people can jump on at any point. This is a pretty rigorous process thanks to our SPC PAG that was initiated by President Lee Brown. We've really honed in on what our members need and made this a really official process. So again, an SPC conveys the realtor message. All of you are really great at this already. You just take those skills that make you a great realtor and translate it into being an SPC. So you ask for training and I give it to you, but I think you already have a lot of what it takes in the tank. So Jordan, can you do the next slide? And we have SPCs that have been longtime friends with their legislator, and we have new SPCs. So wherever you are in that relationship, we are happy to help you. If you want to come on a contact team, if you have a lot of other things going on, you're saying, I'm not ready to make this commitment yet and be the point person, we would love to have you join a contact team. And that just means that, you know, during legislative days, if there's a different meeting, you're part of that core group that speaks to that legislator, but you're not the person taking point. So that's a really good way to get your foot in the door and to start having those conversations and see if this is something that you might be interested in for another legislative cycle. So we do have requirements of the SPC program. Again, that's thanks to our SPC PAG. So these are just a few things of what's required for you. But again, we're really just asking that you go and you make those connections. Next slide. Okay, so what do these numbers mean? SPCs currently cover 70% of the state house and 80% of the state senate. President Lee Brown would really love those numbers to read 100 and 100. So if you have any interest in filling a vacancy, I think there's still 2 in Wake County that are we're still looking for somebody. So if you're really interested or you just want to serve on a contact team, you just want to know more, please reach out to me, Jordan, Alex. We're happy to have a conversation, see where we can make you fit and get those numbers to 100. I know that's really a real priority of ours. And actually they've gone up since January meetings. So those numbers are even now out of date. So happy to report there were probably a little closer to 80 and 90%. So these were our PAG members. Jordan was on this and was really helpful. We spent hours and hours and hours on Zoom going over the program, seeing what members wanted, what they didn't want. You know, there are a lot of opportunities here for us to make this as easy as possible. We know you are busy people. We want to give you the tools and the tricks that will make these meetings happen. We want them to go smoothly. We don't want this to be a really burdensome thing. So yeah, huge thanks to all of those who stepped up and told me all the things that they wanted, because if it's anything I love, it's feedback. So huge thank you to them. And yes, thank you to Shannon. Shannon is on this call. She just chatted. She was a great member of our panel. If you were at winter leadership meetings this past week, she served on a panel talking about the tips of the trade, and she did a phenomenal job. So thankful for you, Shannon, and all you do with Joe John. Oh, and this is also old, sorry. But so this was our training that happened during winter leadership meetings. That training, the same content will be recorded and put into our SPC, our new app. So if you are an SPC, you should have gotten an email last week on Thursday that said, welcome to the new app. If you did not get that email, please, please, please let me know, because that's where our trainings and all of our talking points, all that will live in the app. So if you do not have access to that app, you really need to. So if you did not get that email, you did not get the prompt to create a new login, please let me know and I will get that fixed for you. But again, if you missed that training or you're interested, it's also an Advocacy 101. So if you're interested in that, shoot me an email. I'm happy to connect you with the virtual content, but SPCs, you will have access to that content through the new app. So happy to answer any questions. That's a really brief overview. But thank you all for your participation. We need you to make our advocacy successes real. So yeah, happy to talk more about this or any of the other programs that I oversee.
All right. Thank you so much, Katherine. That was a really wonderful presentation. And I'm just going to circle back around just quickly. Did we have any questions in the chat for Katherine before I move forward?
Not yet. So you guys can use the chat throughout this whole thing, and we'll ask the questions out loud after each presenter finishes. But we are good, Monique.
All right, thank you, Jordan. All right, so as you know, member engagement and our advocacy work throughout the political coordinators program, which is on the state, the local, and the national level, is very important in order for us to be very successful in our efforts. But we do know that there are members who are very hesitant for whatever their reasons are, and for a variety of reasons. So today we have two very, very successful political coordinators who have served both on the state and the local level, and they are going to share their experiences. So today I would like to introduce Leslie Williams, who is the federal political coordinator for Congresswoman Deborah Ross, and she is the state political coordinator for Representative James Robeson. Leslie, could you just raise your hand, acknowledge so that people will know who you are, even though I'm pretty sure everyone on the call is aware of who you are, but thank you for doing that. All right, so Leslie is the owner and managing broker for Leslie Williams Realty Group since 2001, and she is a licensed real estate instructor. Leslie has been married for about 31 years, and she to Tim Williams, and she has two children named Corey and Callie. And she also holds a master's degree, and she has about 30 years of sales and marketing and customer service management experience. So that's good to have, especially when you're in the real estate industry. She also holds several certifications and designations, and she has maintained and served various roles throughout the local, the state, and the national association. So wow, that's pretty impressive. And currently, she is our 2023 immediate past president for the Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors, and she currently serves on the board. And she has also been the 2022 National Association of Realtors Law and Policy Liaison. And she very much has a passion for volunteerism, mentoring others, community, and fighting for property rights and home ownership for all. Thank you, Leslie. And now we are going to also acknowledge our second collaborator here, which is Miss Margaret Sophie. She is the Federal Political Coordinator for Congressman Wiley Nickel. So in 1999, Margaret has been a sales agent in the Cary office of Coldwell Banker, Howard Perry in Walston, and she has exclusively served on the, I believe, let me see if is that the Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors. You were a director, I do believe that, and she was also a chair for the Government Policies and Issues, and she is a member of the Rotary Club. I believe it's the Cary McGregor Rotary Club. She is also married and has children, and she is an advocate for property rights as well. So if we could go ahead today, and let's go ahead and jump into the questions. Are you ladies prepared for today's conversation about your ability to help collaborate with elected officials?
I am. Are
All
you,
right.
Leslie? You got to unmute.
I'm ready. I am ready.
All right, then, that sounds great. So to start off, can each of you just share with us how you came to build that relationship and that trust with the representative?
You want to
Margaret,
start,
take
Leslie?
it away. You can go first if you like
Okay.
to.
So Wiley Nickel is a family friend. We're friends with his in-laws. They're Cary people. They through and through. So he married their daughter. We were at their wedding, and he was a criminal attorney, as you probably all know from the terrible ads that were out there. But he was a senator, and when he ran for Congress, you know, it was kind of an uphill battle, and you know, all the redistricting, et cetera, et cetera. But so I feel very lucky that I have this situation and I can text Wiley anytime. I've got his cell phone. Yeah, it's a great fit, and I'm so honored to do it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Margaret. I think what's unique about Margaret's scenario is that she had already an established, personal relationship with the newly elected congressman. For me, I had no prior relationship with my congresswoman. There was a lot of education around getting prepared for the introduction to the congresswoman that comes from NAR as well as on the local level. So what I began to do after hearing all of the success stories from others, I basically utilized my skills to connect with people and communication, effective communication. I reached out to her team of handlers, her campaign representatives. And then I started to speak with them and talk to them about my role and how I was looking to build a connection with them to be a conduit between the real estate community and the advocacy work that they're currently doing for their constituents. And that's how I began to establish that relationship and started basically the conversation. And then it just grew from there.
All right. So as you've been working with the representative, can you share with us the role that the staff has played?
Well, the staff plays an enormous role because what they do is prepare us on the talking points, on the advocacy issues that we're currently having as it relates to our local association or the state and national, the things that are important to the work that we're currently doing and the role that we feel that we need to play. So they provide the resources and information that we utilize when we're speaking with our officials.
All right.
I would also say that the staff is basically, they're going to be the gatekeepers to our representative. When we were in Washington, D.C. last week for our training, I set up a meeting with Wiley's staff in D.C. who I've never met before. And I went through, got to meet everyone, see his cool new office. And then one of his staffers took me on a private tour of the Capitol. It was really, really amazing. So now I've got that kind of a little bit of a relationship going, and we'll be back in May. There's a event that is being planned by the National Association of Realtors I've already put the bug in their ear to, clear the schedule. We've got an event and the realtors want them there, all of them, the staff and.
All right, awesome. So how do you know what the realtor issues are or the policy concerns? And how do you bring that to the elected officials?
So we count on Jordan and Kristin to give us like the buzz things that we need to know. But we know what's going on out there. Like right now, we've got all the, I'm sorry, I'm looking for my notes. We have so many different issues. Of course, affordable housing is huge. So everybody's working on it. And as I found out, signing myself up for all the different websites of Congressman Nickel, that's one of his initiatives. He wants to get behind affordable housing. So I want to talk with him about that and see where we can collaborate to try to get something done.
Okay.
So the National Association of Realtors has a chief lobbyist, and that individual is, on the Hill on a regular basis, speaking to all of the congressmen and really working and talking to them about the current bills that they're currently supporting, the things that we need them to support. And they're bringing that information back to us and preparing talking points and giving us the high level detail of what those bills entail, and then debriefing us on what it is that we're looking to work through with those congressmen. So we're not there trying to figure that out ourselves. I think one of the biggest challenges, I think that most people who are interested in participating at this level is the fear that, I don't have a huge background in advocacy or in legislation, and it's really not necessary, because as you continue to work with your legislator, your congressperson, you are establishing that relationship. We're learning from each other. So I know that there's a bit of intimidation that goes along with this, but they're just people. There are people who are serving just like we are serving, and they're wanting to do the best for their community. So I think going in with the mindset that you're already going to be, you are arrived before you actually get there, I think is just one of the things that is a normal reaction to anything new. But honestly, you're prepared when you're having the conversation. It's not about just pushing a piece of paper to them and saying, hey, we need you to get active in these areas, but really talk about the personal stories, as we heard Katherine mention, about what is actually happening, with our clients and how some of these laws are impacting us. And so I think just really looking at it from the standpoint of establishing a relationship, speaking to them about, although the broader issues for the real estate industry, but what happens in the industry affects us all. And I think one of the big things that I want to share is that when we have individuals in our marketplace and say, well, what does this advocacy thing really mean? What does RPAC mean to me? When you start at the local level and understand as a real estate professional how local zoning laws impacts your client's ability or the builders to be able to build homes that then become housing supply that becomes affordable housing, et cetera. So it's important to start at the local level to understand the impact that it's having on the state and then on the federal level. So all of those things are connected. That is the reason why we care. Now, if you empower someone else to take on that responsibility for you, and I'm happy to do it, yay. But that is what I'd like to share with you, that it's not meant to be intimidated. There are so many resources that we have, and we have each other. So we have the staff, we have the lobbyists, we have our own state lobbyists. So we are having people going out there really doing the hard work for us so that we can step in and we can use our personal skills, our personality skills to get in the door and open that door to say, we want to work with you.
That's great. And that really goes into my next question, which is, how does your experience as a realtor translate into you becoming an effective political coordinator?
I'll give it to
Margaret, would you like to take that one first?
Sure. So, we're in real estate, we're in a business of relationships, and that's what we're doing with our representatives. We're problem solvers. That's what we do all day, every day. And that's what we're hoping to help with on this level. I'll tell you, being a political coordinator is probably one of the coolest things. If any of you guys get an opportunity, highly, highly recommend it. It's pretty cool. It's just amazing.
All right.
Well, I sort of echo what Margaret said. Again, we're out there every day entering to new relationships, and this one isn't any different. I think having the exchange of communication is really critical, and just speaking to them and letting them know, what's happening in the market. So it's just those skills that we have. We present. We talk about the value, the ROI of why they should connect with us, and vice versa. And so it's really a great opportunity.
All right. Well, those were the only questions I know that our team had come up with. Do we have any questions in the chat after the ladies have spoken that we need to put forward?
We don't, Chair Edwards, but I quickly wanted to jump in. Margaret and Leslie, I think you did a really phenomenal job. And interestingly enough, we have the staff liaisons for both for our local, state, and federal political coordinator programs on here. Katherine is SPC, as she mentioned, and Kristin is over the FPC program for North Carolina, and I handle the local political coordinator program. And we do have, as Katherine mentioned, some positions open on the state level and on the local level, and it is really vital for us as the staff liaisons to have members there, so you guys can use your charisma and your people skills, like Leslie mentioned, to go in and advocate for your industry. We can give all the stats in the world, but you guys having that real world experience and being able to go in and advocate on behalf of your industry and your clients is so valuable to our work. So if you are interested at all, please reach out to us. And if you have any hesitancies, I think Margaret and Leslie kind of put those to rest today. But if you have any other questions, you can always reach out to Kristin, Katherine, or I, and we're happy to help.
If I could share, we were recently in DC for the training for FPCs. And although it had been I was already appointed to the Congresswoman, it was really great to go and circle back on that training. And it really was a great opportunity to hear from other FPCs and their success. And most people that were there really had, 15, 20-year relationship. So I think understanding that the relationship should not be short-lived. I understand that there are requirements and things that you're expected to do in this particular role and accomplishments that is expected from you by NAR. But it is important that time really heals all wounds, if that's the right sort of metaphor there. But it's important to have the longevity in that relationship because it only improves the work that we do. So just maintaining that relationship long-term. I believe that there was a question in the chat about one of the recent wins. I always go back to, although it wasn't that long ago, when we had really struggled a lot on the local association as it relates to getting buy-in for our advocacy efforts and getting members to contribute to the Realtor Party Action Committee. And once we shifted our mindset to education and bringing members in and understanding the ROI and doing these types of forums, advocacy forums, information that the members were able to understand exactly what the Realtor Party did and that it was a nonpartisan PAC. And as a result of that, we all during the pandemic was thinking, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? The country is shut down. And then we had limited access to being outside. And then ultimately, because of the relationships that we have with our local officials, that we were able to have with our state, the conversations that was being had, that we were back in the marketplace in less than 60 days at some point, some variation of being able to do our real estate business. So that was one of the big wins that I think still rings very loudly and true, that if we're not having the conversation with our local officials, with our state officials, with our national officials, when things happen to our industry, you know, we were deemed essential right up there with first responders. We were right there. We're one of the largest trade organizations in the world. And so I think that that is something we should be proud of and excited by. So I hope I answered that question for you, Shannon. Thank you for it.
Yes, and I think we have two more. So the next one would be, how do you balance listening when you're working with elected officials and sharing? Margaret, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I think that, you know, proportionately, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use your ears, right? And listening is a really great skill. And when they talk, you want to listen. And whether that be your congressperson, your elected official, whoever it may be, or their staff, because their staff is so knowledgeable, never discount them. It's just, as Leslie said earlier, it's a learning. Every day you're learning something new, and just kind of put that in your little toolbox and save it for another day, because you're going to need it.
Yes, and I think one of the things that we heard at the training in DC is that they have a very short amount of time. So it really depends on when you're visiting with them and how many other people are in their ear. So again, establishing that relationship, if the relationship is ongoing and there is a two-way communication on an ongoing basis, then you're not just rushing in there in May. Oh my God, I need you to hear what I have to say. That's less communication. That's more just, here are the talking points. But if the relationship is established, then you're already prepping up to the May meetings. You're already prepping up to the things that are to come. So yes, there isn't a conversation if it's not listening and sharing and communicating.
So I saw a little note in there that someone is asking about, how do you get started in a program like this? You know, starting at our local level, which is what I did. I started at the board. You know, there's always town hall meetings. There's always interesting things happening in your own backyard, and then it grows from there. So if you're interested in this, I would highly suggest, you know, wherever it is that you do most of your work, where you live, your children go to school, just start getting involved, start attending the meetings.
And this might be a good question for Katherine, just overall in general, since she works the closest with SPCs, but roughly how much time does a political coordinator spend on activities? And what is your expectation as a program leader for how much time a political coordinator is going to spend?
Yeah, so I don't really want to put exact hours on it because we have so many different relationship levels. We have people that they text, that like Margaret said, they text regularly anyways. And I'm not asking that counts. Like, I'm not asking when you're just talking about, you know, your friends, your family, that you sneak in some realtor priorities in there. Like, you know, have those conversations, maintain that relationship, and know when to actually turn this into like a professional meeting. But then we have other people that they're just starting out. So they want to make contact really regularly. When the session starts, they want to reach out, you know, they want to check in every month. And we have so much access through NAR to data, housing data. So don't feel like you need to know all these statistics on the spot. Jordan, Kristin, and I, we can help you pull this stuff. So you can send an email, you can make a phone call, you can leave a voicemail, you can just reach out to staff and say, hey, you know, like, how are you doing? So I don't really want to put a number on it because there are so many different relationships, but if you are just starting out, I would be prepared to make one touch a month during our long session. So right now the General Assembly is in long session, meaning they're going to be there for a long time. So that is just a once a month touch. And again, it could be an email, it could be a social media post, it could be a phone call, it could be just, hey, I'm just stopping by just to say hi. I don't want to ask anything of you right now. Just checking in, see if you need anything from me. At the state level, these are not full-time legislators. These people have other jobs. You know, they're not in this to get paid $13K a year. So be a resource. You know your markets, you know your communities. Just be ready to answer questions, and that will really set you apart from the millions of other people that are in their office just to demand something from them.
Awesome. And I think we can keep this conversation going in the chat. Getting text messages about advice that people have. And I know Sharon is tapping Linda and Asa, former FPCs and SPCs, to give their advice. So everybody just chime in with your advice or your questions. I think we need to move to our next section in the programming, but we can continue to have this conversation in the chat as we go.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jordan. And I'm going to say, ladies, thank you so much for coming to speak to the group today, because I think that having the perspective from political coordinators in which you have one who did not already have an established relationship versus one who did have a relationship is very helpful to the audience. So thank you so much for being the great collaborators who come out of Wake County. And now I want to turn things over to Tim McBrayer, who will be introducing our next guest.
Thank you, Monique. Our final guest this morning is Kristin Nash. Kristin is well known by many of us, but for those of you that don't know who Kristin is, she is the NC Realtors Director of Political Fundraising. She is responsible for planning and executing all fundraising initiatives associated with NC Realtors, Political Action Committee, or the NC Realtors PAC, and the National Association of Realtors Corporate Ally Program. In addition, Kristin works with the NC Realtors Federal Political Coordinators, who are the voice of real estate to our federal lawmakers. Kristin strives to give realtors a stronger voice by helping elect legislators who understand interests and concerns of the real estate industry. Kristin has been with NC Realtors since 2007 and previously managed the NC Realtors Partner Program, helping improve member benefits to meet the needs of North Carolina realtors. Kristin is an Appalachian State University graduate, as I believe many of us on this call are, or we have kids that are, like my two daughters. And she has a degree in communications and a passion for fundraising. We all know that if we know Kristin. When Kristin is not out fundraising, she loves spending time with her husband and two little boys, Wesley and Maxwell. Kristin, thank you for joining us today. We look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, Tim, for that wonderful introduction. And as Tim mentioned, yes, I work for NCR, which means I work for you. And I just want to thank you all for giving me a few moments of your valuable time today. And as Tim mentioned, this is my family. And I was told recently that you can't do a presentation without showing a picture of a baby or a picture of an animal. So since we were talking politics today, I thought about doing both. So this is my family, Wesley and Maxwell, my husband, John David. And this is down in the corner here, our new cat, Millie, that we just rescued, which she has brought recently a lot of laughs. As you can see, my kids are thoroughly enjoying her. I'm not enjoying the cat hair as much as they are, but you know, it's bringing a lot of smiles to our family. But my purpose today is to give you a reason as to why your engagement in the issues confronting the real estate industry are more important than ever. You are one of 55,000 members. There's not one of you alike. You all come from different backgrounds, different upbringings. You have different specialties, different ambitions. But the one thing you all have in common is that you're a realtor and your desire to see your real estate business prosper. Now, hardworking realtors like yourself often ask me, what exactly is NC RPAC? What is the North Carolina Realtors Political Action Committee? And how does it help me in my business? And here's my quick answer for you. Being a part of North Carolina RPAC is your best way to stop legislation that would increase your taxes, prevent new burdensome regulations on your business, making sure the real estate industry in North Carolina stays strong, protecting private property rights, and preserving the American dream of homeownership. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard people, whether it be at a membership meeting or wherever you are talking about politics, you've heard others say, if real estate is your business, then politics is your business. And it's one thing to say that government is involved throughout the steps of the real estate process, but it's another thing to show it. So let's think about that process. And full disclaimer, I'm not a realtor, but I'm just going to go over kind of a summary synopsis of what it would look like to go through the real estate process in a transaction. So first, we have to get our license. You want to be a realtor? We decided, yes, okay. To practice real estate, you need your license, which is issued by who? The North Carolina Real Estate Commission, a state agency. All right, step number 2, you secure your license, and now you're ready to start working with a firm and get your name out there. Why not put a sign up along the highway, or put it up at the grocery store with your contact name and information? Sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? There are local sign ordinances that dictate the size of your sign, what you can have on your sign, and where you can put it. And who do you think made those decisions? That's right, local elected officials. All right, step 3, you secure a client, and now you need to determine which listings will meet your client's needs. Major buyer concerns are, school district performance, are the tax dollars being spent effectively, land use regulations, can they use the land for the purpose intended? Are there zoning ordinances, such as, can I add that chicken coop to my backyard? And can I have a rooster in there to entertain my hens? What about a potbelly pig? Are there historic tax credits out there available to restore this property? Who put those laws into place, and who can change those laws? Each of these factors is controlled by a city or county government agency. All right, step 4. Client is ready to make an offer. Your client submits an offer, and you work on a financing package with your mortgage broker. Because of the significant regulations on the lending industry, government is here again, present at all steps of the process, making sure that everything is done correctly. Regulations, as you know, change frequently, and so it is vital that realtors stay up to date on the latest laws. All right, step 5, offer is accepted, but the government's involvement has not ended. Everything from both buyer and seller, point of sale inspections, flood insurance, RESPA, all of these things have to be handled appropriately to make sure that the deal closes correctly and on time. And lastly, we're finally finished. Wow. All you have to do is cash that commission check and you're on to the next property, right? Well, currently the answer is yes, but how would you feel about an 8.05% tax on that commission? This discussion started back in 2013, and because of your support and investments in NC RPAC, it was defeated. So my point in breaking it down this way is to hopefully communicate how much government is truly involved in the real estate transactions. And when you hear someone say, if real estate is your business, then politics is your business, you'll understand why it's so important that we are politically involved and politically engaged in these issues affecting the real estate industry. Now, as some of these have already been mentioned, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on them, but your support has led to a long string of successes for us. A lot of times people ask, what's in it for me? And a lot of times it's hard to explain all of the wonderful things that RPAC and your wonderful volunteers that have so diligently contributed their time and efforts to, helping our lobbyists with our SPCs, our, elected officials, getting them to understand our issues. This is just a small snapshot of some of the big things that we've done. As you know, association healthcare plans in 2019 was a huge win for us. As already mentioned, NC Realtors were deemed essential during COVID, which was absolutely, needed for you all to continue working and continue doing business and providing for your families. Protecting aesthetic aspects of residential properties, and also the transfer taxes. I'm sure you have heard a lot of people mention this. This was a huge fight for us. This started in 2007. And we defeated 24 local transfer tax referendums and then repealed legislation that allowed counties to also enact a transfer tax. And then this was also included in a year where we fought the statewide we fought the statewide transfer tax of 1%. So I know there were some places like the Outer Banks that already had a local transfer tax, and the legislature wanted to put a 1% transfer tax across the board. So this would have been an additional tax on top of those that already had it at their local level. So we also fought that off, and this was the same year in 2013 that we also defeated that 8.05% tax on services. And when you think about that tax on services, your buyer would have had to pay taxes on your commission. And just think about all the services that go into buying and selling a home, as you already know, getting all of those services done, the appraisal, even for a homeowner. Think about, you know, the services if people have their house cleaned or their lawn mowed, even just getting your hair cut, you know, all these services would have been subject to this 8.05% tax. So it would have just, you know, added so much to the cost of home ownership, which is something that we wanted to prevent. But most importantly, we couldn't have achieved any of these successes without your support. And I fear that our Realtor organization hasn't done a very good job of communicating why it's so important for you to be engaged in these issues and how they affect your business. And as a result, a lot of our members may not perceive the value that they get from RPAC, even though they clearly benefit from them, as you can see. Or if you have an idea about how they all, you know, work together to benefit and boost your business, you still quite don't understand how everything works together. And because of that, sometimes members say, or they look at our lobbying efforts and say, well, that doesn't really affect me, or, you know, I don't want to be political, I'm just going to stay out of it, or they misunderstand what RPAC really does. And from time to time, I hear members say things like, well, don't tell me how to vote, or don't use my money to support candidates that I don't like. I'm sure those of you that are involved on these government affairs committees have heard that before. But just to clear up any rumors, you know, we don't tell you how to vote, but we do recommend candidates whose voting records support property ownership and affordability in your small business. And I want you to know RPAC supported candidates have been interviewed and their voting records have been evaluated by members just like yourself to make sure those candidates have a history of supporting realtor and property ownership issues. Now, other times I hear members say, well, you only support Republicans or you only support Democrats. When the fact is, when you consider local elections, General Assembly elections, statewide office elections, and congressional elections, RPAC gives pretty evenly, and about half of supported candidates are Democrats and about half are Republicans. Now, there's never going to be an exact 50-50 split, and that isn't the point. The point is that the candidate's party affiliation doesn't matter. What matters is if they support the real estate industry. And as you can see here, this is a graphic that we have started doing to kind of like give an overview of our election cycle. And it might be hard for some of you to see on the screen, but we do have this as a handout that we can provide, and I can also send this to you. And as you can see there, we're very open about our splits. 63% from this 2022 was an election year. And so last year, 63% of Republicans received support and 37% were Democrats. Now, I know you might think that's a little skewed, but you also have to remember Republicans, the majority of legislators in the legislature right now are Republicans. So there's more Republicans in there than Democrats. So our numbers will tend to fluctuate with who is the majority serving. But then 100% of our RPAC federal candidates won their races. And we also had great success in the last election year with RPAC supported candidates winning as well. And also, I want you to know that you have the ability to recommend candidates as well. Your local association interviews, recommends candidates. We look at those candidates' actual voting records, not their party. And I know Raleigh does an amazing job with your interview process and recommending candidates. We actually just featured your local association. If any of you attended our meetings recently at winter meetings, Jordan and Alex did an incredible job showcasing the process that you all go through to make sure that you're electing the best realtor champions for your business, and hoping that we would, you know, put that knowledge on the other local associations and that they could take some of that and be better at some of the things that they do as well to help elect those realtor friendly candidates. So in short, we're not for the Democratic Party, we're not for the Republican Party, we're for the Realtor Party, and we support candidates that support you. Now, another concern I often hear is that association staff should not be making these decisions and choosing these candidates. Well, we don't. This is a group of RPAC trustees. RPAC funding support decisions are made by the RPAC trustees. Realtors just like you, there's about 30 of them from around the state. They check their party affiliation at the door and they make decisions based on how candidates measure up on real estate issues. So as you know, John and Brett are your trustees this year for your region. And recently we had Tim that just rolled off, who did a phenomenal job. And I know some of you have also on here have served as a trustee. So we appreciate all you do. And truly, these people are your voice at the table when these decisions are being made. So we do encourage local associations to get involved, have these people present, make sure that they know the issues and know the candidates that you all want to support so they can represent you when it's time to make those decisions. And I know you have heard this before. If you don't have a seat at the table, you are on the menu. Another complaint I often hear is that members just think politics is distasteful and that they just don't want to be a part of it. But yes, politics can be distasteful, but if you don't have a seat at the table, you are absolutely on the menu. Unfortunately, this is the system that we have. And what I like to think of it is we can either ignore it and let things happen to us in our business, or we can work within the system that we have to elect people who think like we do about real estate and property ownership issues. So as you can see, we work for you, and we want you and your clients to have a great place to live, such as Raleigh, North Carolina, and all across the state of North Carolina. Now, I understand there is a lot going on right now in our country, and yes, America has bigger problems in real estate, but at the same time, we surely don't want Congress and our other elected bodies to solve these problems on the backs of property owners and real estate practitioners. With the housing affordability crisis going on, now is not the time to increase the costs associated with homeownership and property investment in North Carolina. So just for a second, let's imagine a world without RPAC. Do you have time to read through legislation at the local, state, and national level? Do you have time to or the money to afford to support every single candidate who supports the real estate industry? And do you have time to lobby on each piece of legislation that comes through session? I know I just recently spoke with Katie, and she said, I think over 100 bills, 300 bills have already been proposed, and that by, in a couple of months, I can't remember if she said March or May, that we would likely see like 1,500 to 2,000 bills. And she does read every single one of them, because you never know when they're going to sneak in something that might affect property ownership and real estate issues. So RPAC represents 55,000 of you, even the members that aren't investing. And my point in all of this is to say that nobody knows the real estate industry better than you. And so this is your opportunity. It's so important for you to make your voice heard on these issues and help fight bad legislation. And also, I know we talk a lot about doomsday and the things that can happen to our real estate industry, but another thing that we can do is also help implement new legislation that will help you in your business. So like I said, sometimes your business is under fire, but hopefully you can sleep better at night knowing that NCR, your local association, and the National Association are engaged. All these members on this call today, your volunteers, are engaged in these issues and working to protect your interest, which leads me to RPAC. Let's imagine if each of you just invested $15 a year. That's not much more than 2 or 3 cups of coffee a year. Imagine the power of 55,000 realtors. Imagine the benefit to you, your customers, and your clients. And at the end of the day, the Realtor cloud, everything's in clouds now, so I say the Realtor cloud, is based on a simple equation. 55,000 members who vote and are politically engaged, plus a well-funded RPAC, plus a good lobbying team, equals success for you and your customers and your clients. But it takes everyone to make the 55,000 strong, because together, everyone achieves more. And I want you to remember this, because we've got a theme this year centering around baseball and being a team. And so that's what our chair, Connie Corey, this year wanted us to really, put that message forward that, we can't do anything alone. Just like RPAC, it's a pool of resources. It's a pool of your money together that makes it powerful. And so together, everyone achieves more. And I do want to mention the record of success that we've had. As you can see, in the past couple of years, everything is over 90%. And recently in 2022, 94% of our candidates won their races. And so that means we have a lot of friends in office that will hopefully listen to us and our issues. And just really quickly, a lot of people have questions about where the money actually goes. It doesn't go in RPAC space. The majority of the money stays in North Carolina to be used at the state and local level. And then a small portion of the money goes to NAR, as we've talked about, to fund those federal candidates, which then, as I said, returns to the state to fund our federal candidates. And then your local association determines its own funding for local candidates based on the amount of RPAC funds you raise. And this is for like local city council, mayor, school board, things like that. You can also use money that you raise to support future RPAC events. So just to give you an idea of that, every dollar that you raise, your local association keeps 20% of. If you meet your goal, you get to keep 30% of every dollar. And if you go over your goal, you keep 30% up to your goal and 40% of everything you go over goal. So it's a great opportunity to build this local candidate funding balance that you can use, like I said, to support those local candidates, get those realtor-friendly local elected officials in office, where, as we already talked about through the real estate process, there's so many things that go through in a real estate transaction that start at the local level. So it's very important that we have eyes and ears on those things that happen. And then just really quickly, I did just want to shout you guys out because you had an amazing RPAC year last year, raising 127% of your goal with over 3,322 investors, 31% participation, 81 major investors, and 16 President Circle members. Phenomenal. So we are so proud of you all. And then we just got goals recently, and your goal for next year is going to be a little over $281,000. So far, you've already raised over $81,000, which is 29% of your goal. You're at a little over 2,500 investors, which is 25.17% participation. And your participation goal this year is 36.33%. And then I always talk about the local candidate funding balance, but sometimes people don't realize, you know, what an impact that really is. And so I wanted to put your balance in there so you all could see how much money you really do have to support these local candidates. And starting off this year, you've got a little over 88,000, and that's not even including any of that money you've raised so far in 2023. So I'll just leave you with that. This is my contact information, which I'm sure Jordan and Alex will send out. And as you can see, they're Hit It Out of the Pack theme this year. We're looking forward to working with you all on your RPAC events and everything this year. And lastly, make sure you're following us on Instagram. We really like to post local associations that do events and their involvement, and we have a lot of fun out there. So give us a follow and reach out, stay in touch, and I'm here to help with anything you need and answer any questions. And again, thank you for your time.
Kristin, thank you so much for giving us a fantastic presentation. And I hope a lot of this information, maybe your entire presentation, can be made available to everyone on this call, or some version of it, because it's very useful information, even for those of us that have been involved with RPAC for a long time. Jordan and Alex, do we have any questions in the chat for Kristin at this time?
We don't have any questions in the chat, but Shannon Bryan has let everyone know she is stepping up to President Circle this year. Awesome. So thank you, Shannon. That is a huge commitment to our advocacy work, and we appreciate you investing in that way.
Fantastic.
And I think that's all for us.
Well, before we wrap up today's meeting, Monique and I would like to remind you of ways that you can get involved in our advocacy and work today.
Oh, yes, you can definitely join us for meetings like this one, but we also have two very great events coming up. On March the 8th, we are having a government advocacy affairs and forum on March the 8th. So please join us for that Government Affairs and Advocacy Forum. And then in April, as we recognize Fair Housing Month, we are having a collaboration with the GPIC committee and the DEI committee. So look for that in Monday Minutes. And as we spoke earlier, we do have local political coordinator positions and state political coordinator positions that are currently open, and we are seeking to fill those roles. So if you are interested in becoming a political coordinator, please feel free to reach out to myself and the staff, and we'd be happy to talk to you and figure out which one would be a great fit.
And if you're interested in getting involved or investing in RPAC, if you haven't already done so, please reach out to myself or to Alex John. We will be sending out contact information to all attendees today following this call. Thank you again for your time today, and we look forward to working with you to advocate for our industry and for private property rights. Have a great rest of the week. And again, thank you for attending this. Bye.
All right, take care, everyone.